Hello, it's Mrs. Watts here again. Welcome to video number 2 of your practical cooking lessons. Firstly, thank you so much for all your lovely photographs that you sent me of the potato wedges and all of the other things that you cooked last week. I've really enjoyed receiving them and passing them through so they can appear on the Facebook page. So today what we're going to do is we're going to make a potato, bacon and onion bake. And the quantities that I've got today are for 2 people, but obviously if you want to make it for 4 or for 6, you just need to either double or treble the ingredients. So first of all, what you should have done is washed your hands, tied your hair up, put on your apron if you have one, don't worry if you don't, but just make sure your hands are really nice and clean. And then what you need to do is gather all of the equipment together and ingredients that you need. So I'll talk you through those now. Let me just move this camera. Okay, so first of all, I've got an oven-proof dish and I've also got a piece of tin foil. I've got a large knife, we used that last week, and also the potato peeler that we used last week. I've got myself 500 grams, just slightly over here actually, of potatoes. So if you are sort of between 500 or 600 grams, that's absolutely fine. I've also got 1 onion. This can be a red onion or a white onion, or you could even use a leek. So if you can't get one of these types of onions, but you do have a leek, then that's absolutely fine. Also going to need 40 grams of cheese. Now this is a mature cheddar. If you like your potato bake really cheesy, you could also add a bit more cheese, or you could use red Leicester, but it needs to be a hard cheese that you can grate. Need a stock cube. I've got a vegetable one, but you can use either chicken or pork because we're using bacon. And salt and pepper, and also a cheese grater to grate your cheese. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to peel the potatoes. So I've actually got myself a little bowl to peel into here, which just keeps my board nice and tidy. You can either at this point, like last week, stop the video and then peel your potatoes and just catch up afterwards. Or if you're quite quick at peeling, you can peel with me. So I've got 3 potatoes to peel here. Now, ideally you need sort of medium-sized potatoes, not the tiny ones, but if you've got the big baking ones, that would work just as well. That's one. Do the other one very quickly. We're going to slice these up quite thin. So what they're going to do is they're going to cook in the stock. So the other thing you do need is some boiling water. It's about 100 millilitres of boiling water. Okay, I've got mine out on the kitchen side there, so I'll grab it in a second. Okay, if you haven't got a measuring jug, just use a mug full. It'll probably be about 100 millilitres. Okay, it's not too much trouble if you've got too much. You don't have to pour all of it in. A little bit when we're making the pastry, I say sometimes 100 millilitres and sometimes you don't use it all. Okay, so those are the potatoes peeled. All right, we're going to slice them, okay, nice and thinly. And what I'm actually going to do, again, because they are actually moving around, do you remember last week we did the bridge cut? Slice the potato in half. You can then pop it on its edge. Using that claw hold, you would then slice down your potatoes. Okay, and you're wanting to make these a couple of millimetres thick. If you're actually making them thicker, again use the bridge hold, if you can make them thicker, they're going to take just a bit longer to cook. Okay. So try and make your slices even, so you want all of the potato to cook together at the same time. Do that in half. Okay, I've got quite a lot of potatoes here. So just make sure that your dish is big enough, or that you've got a second smaller one handy if you've got too much. Now, the other ingredient you also need is bacon, and it's about 8 rashers. I've kept my bacon in the fridge because it's a meat protein that needs to stay in the fridge until you need to use it. Okay, nearly done. And again, you can pause the video at this time if you're not as quick as me. I'd rather you be safe than quick. Okay, so I'm going to put all of these potatoes back into my bowl, ready for later. Okay, and I'm going to start on the onion. So the first thing you need to do is peel the onion, and what I tend to do is just take off as many layers as I can with my hands first, and also just pull that root end off. Now you might struggle to get the final layers off. Okay, if you are struggling, the thing to do, using that claw hold, and you have to be careful because this does wobble a little bit, just cut the top off. Okay, and what you'll find is that you can peel your skin down from the top. If you're still really struggling with the last little bits, okay, pop it on that flat edge, bridge hold, cut in half, and then what you might be able to do is just peel it from the sides here. Sometimes it can be quite stubborn. Okay, and we're going to slice this nice and thin like the potato. I'll just take this last little bit off. Okay, right, so again, claw hold, and you can either slice this way or you can slice that way. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to slice it this way so I can keep my onion slicers just into position like this, like a slice. And I'm going to put those back in the bowl. Now, if the onion starts to make you cry, okay, go and get some fresh air, just pause the video. Hopefully I'll be okay. I can feel it attacking my eyes right now. So I'm going to pop those bits over there. And I'm going to just take away all my peelings and my onion, because it's the little sack of perfume that's here at the base of the onion that's making your eyes water. Okay, I've also got my bacon here as well, ready. So before I do my bacon though, I'm going to grate the cheese. That way the board's nice and clean, and I haven't used it for raw meat, so there's no cross-contamination of any bacteria that might come from the raw meat. I'm going to use the smallest grater setting, but not the really tiny one here. That's for things like nutmeg. And I'm just going to grate that onto the board, and then I can put my cheese in my little bowl there. That onion has got to my eyes. I'm starting to cry. Okay, just grate that off. Mind your fingers, and don't worry if you've got any big bits like that. We can just sprinkle those over. As I say, if you want a bit more cheese, or you want to mix two cheeses, you can do. You can put a few little slices of mozzarella on here as well if you like mozzarella cheese. Okay, and mix that with your cheddar. Okay, so I'm going to pop that in my bowl. Don't worry if you've left a bit of cheese on the board. Okay, that's not going to contaminate the bacon. Okay, right, so I'm going to just adjust that a little bit. Hopefully you can see my board. Okay, I'm going to open the packet of bacon. If you can't open it by pulling it like this, sometimes they are a bit tricky. Okay, you can just really carefully take your knife down here, or ask an adult to help. As I said last week, it's always best not to be cooking in the kitchen on your own. Always make sure that you have got an adult present. I'm just going to get rid of that lid because I don't want to touch my tabletop with it. Now, it's really important that once you touch this bacon, you don't touch your hair, your hands, your face, your arms, your clothes, the table, or any of the other ingredients. And that's because meat can have bacteria on it that once you've cooked the meat, it's very safe to eat as long as you cook it properly, which means cooking it through so it's piping hot. But obviously we don't eat raw bacon, and this is the reason why, because of the bacteria. Now, I did say to take rashers, okay, and it's this bit here that you want to put in your pie. Now, if you don't mind a little bit of fat in it, you can just keep it whole. But what I tend to do is just cut those off here and just put those in a little Tupperware dish. And I find that they flavour things like bologneses and carbonaras, or you can use them on top of a pizza. If any of you cooked with me last year when we did the pizza breads, the panini pizza breads, obviously cook your bacon first in the pan, your bacon bits, just to make sure that it is fully cooked through, okay, before you put it on top of your pizza. But it's really tasty that way. Or you can fry them up and just make a sandwich. Okay, now I did say 8 rashers of bacon, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 2 here. Okay, so I'm going to pop those back into the bacon packet for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my knife and also the bacon, and I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to wash the knife. Okay, I'm going to bring back a little dish of my bacon, and I can move my board, and then I know I've got everything out of the way, so I'm not going to contaminate anything else I'm cooking. Okay, so I've just got a plate here. I'm just going to pop the bacon on there. I'm going to take the board away, and then I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, so I've just given my hands a quick wash, and also the board and the knife in some hot soapy water. What I want to do now is I've got my dish, and I'm going to put a layer of onions at the bottom. So I'm actually, this layer, because I haven't got many onions, I'm just going to sprinkle them out like this, and using the smaller pieces, and then I can use the bigger bits for in between. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of potatoes. Now, you don't have to be too particular with this, okay. You can put extra bacon in the dish at this point, but I like to keep my bacon for the upper layers. And what we're doing is we're just building the pie. So I'm going to have another layer here. Okay, if you've got bigger slices of potato, you can maybe stand them up at an angle a little bit like that, but it's not going to work with this one. Okay, more potatoes. You can put a sprinkle of salt and pepper in between. Don't put too much salt because the stock cube can be quite salty. So you want ideally to do about 3 layers, so you do need quite a deep dish. Okay, I'm going to pop the other potatoes on, and then I'm going to insert the bacon afterwards, because my potatoes chunks and slices are quite small now. Okay, and it'll be a bit fiddly. Now I'm just going to tuck those under like this and tuck them in. Okay. They're quite big, these medallions, so you might want to put them in half if you wanted to. But to be honest, I'm just going to tuck them in like this. I think that would work quite well. So you don't want too much sticking out the top, because you don't want it just to burn and go crispy. But it is nice to have a few crispy bits. So cover them a little bit with the potatoes. It's nice to have a lot of bacon, because if you are sharing it for lunch or tea, it is your main source of protein. So we've got carbohydrates obviously from the potatoes and protein from the bacon, and then we'd have some vitamins from the onions. So what I need to do now, I've touched the bacon again, so I need to wash my hands, and I need to go and get that 100 ml of boiling water. So you can either do the same or just pause the video. Okay, so I've got my water. I poured 100 ml of the water into my jug, and I thought that's not really enough for my dish. So I've increased the water content in this to 300 ml because I've got quite a large dish. So if you do feel that you need more water, dependent on which dish you're using, then just please feel free to add it. So I'm going to move the camera down again so you can see what I'm doing, and we'll crumble the stock cube in. Okay, so I've got my jug, I've got my stock cube, and you can either use one like this or an OXO. Now these ones take a little longer to dissolve, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crumble it up into little bits, okay, rather than just putting the whole thing in there, and then I'll go and grab a spoon and give it a stir to dissolve it. Okay, it's always handy to have sort of a serviette or a wet wipe or cloth or something for your fingers as well when you're doing this. You should be doing it in the kitchen though, so you'll be able to pause the video and then obviously just wash your hands again. Okay, so we'll give that a stir. Make sure that that is all dissolved, otherwise you're going to get bits in your dish, which would probably taste quite nice, but you want to evenly distribute the flavour of the stock cube. Okay, so as long as the majority of it is dissolved, you haven't got any massive lumps in there, it'll be fine to pour on top. Okay, so we'll bring the dish along, and I'm going to carefully pour this over the top. And again, if you feel that the dish is getting too full, obviously don't put all of your stock in. Okay, but what you want it to do is covering quite a few of the potatoes. Okay, just like that, but not completely up to the top. Okay, so I think I'll be able to get all of this in. I've got a few of those lumps in there as well, so I'm just going to actually let them fall on top because it will give extra flavour. And then all I'm going to do is just crumble my cheese on the top. Okay, like this. And you can add your salt and pepper beforehand if you want. Okay, so I've added my pepper. I didn't add any salt because I know the bacon's quite salty. Sorry about the video if it keeps glitching, but my video recorder keeps stopping, so we have to stop and start and then build the video together. So if you see a few funny glitches in it, that's the reason why. If you've got the method sheet, I have said to put the potato bake in the oven for an hour before adding the cheese on the method, but it doesn't really matter which way round you do it. As I say, if you pop the cheese on first and then you've put it in the oven, then you can just simply take your foil off and add some more. So what I'll do now is I'll just show you how to, hopefully you can see that, show you how to cover it. So you've got your tin foil here. Okay, now tin foil is shiny one side and dull the other, and you want to put it shiny side down because that keeps the heat in the dish, it reflects the heat. If you're going to keep something cool, you want to put this dull side on the inside. So I'm just going to literally hook that over the dish like that. And what that does, it does a couple of things. First of all, it creates steam inside the dish, which will help cook the potatoes. And secondly, it will stop the top of your potatoes from burning. So you pop that in the oven for an hour like that, okay, with that foil on. And then what you would do is after an hour, just check that your potatoes were cooked by just popping a fork in them. If they're still quite hard, pop your foil lid back on and just put it back into the oven for another 10 to 15 minutes. If they are cooked, then take that foil lid off, put it back in the oven without the lid, and then that cheese will go nice and brown and crispy on top. Hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing your pictures. Bye.